Um, Welcome to tonight's meeting. Good evening, everybody. My name is Councillor Stella Antoniades, and I'm the new chair of the Social Inclusion and Community Safety Policy and Accountability Committee. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping points. This meeting is being live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel. By participating, you are consenting to being recorded. If the fire alarm sounds, either continuously or intermittently, I will adjourn the meeting. Please leave the meeting in an orderly fashion by the staff fire exit, which is behind me to the right. Officers will direct you to the assembly point in Riverside Gardens. There's tea and coffee and biscuits available in the staff kitchen next to the reception, and the toilets are to the right here as well, to my right-hand side. Please can officers introduce themselves before speaking for the first time, and would everyone speak into the microphone? And this evening we have Lucy, Councillor Lucy Richardson. Oh, do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah, Councillor Lucy Richardson, and and we want to also welcome, and I want to take the opportunity to welcome Councillor Victoria Brocklebank Fowler, who has newly joined the committee and is attending remotely this evening. Welcome, Councillor Victoria Brocklebank Fowler.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So please, and we have Councillor Rebecca Harvey, who is a Cabinet Member for Social Inclusion and Community Safety.
Hello.
There's apologies for absence, and an apology has been received from Councillor Omid Miri. We understand that Councillor Sally Taylor isn't available this evening. Is there any declarations of interest? No? Do members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of April 2025 as an accurate record? Agreed. Thank you. And there's no matters arising from the last meeting. So item 4, annual performance report for the law enforcement team. And I please invite Mr. Mohammed Bassif, the law enforcement manager, to introduce this report, please. And also present this evening is Neil Thurlow, who's the Assistant Director of Community Safety, Resilience and CCTV. And Mark Rosebeck will be joining as soon as he can. So would you please give just a sort of summary of the report? And
absolutely, no problem.
Thank you very much.
The report itself is rather detailed. It provides the law enforcement team stats for Q4 for the financial year of 24-25. Within this report, I've just highlighted a few key points which I think should be raised, which are, in that 3 months, we've done just under 21,000 patrols, which averages out to about 233 site visits and service requests that have been resolved on a daily basis. We received 1,228 service requests for the service from residents, businesses, partners, both external and internal. Most service requests are resolved as soon as possible. We always try and resolve issues on the same day if we can, although contact is made immediately with the complainant. Sometimes these can take upwards of 21 to 28 days if we follow the legal process all the way through. We've also done lots of patrols in housing land, in parks and so on and so forth. For instance, 4,258 patrols in housing land and just under 3,000 in parks. We are very visible in parks and our housing land because that's where the demand is. We've also got some broader highlights for the service, which include joint operations conducted in various wards throughout the borough. Local ward councillors are always invited to these meetings and operations, and we encourage them to join the team to see the vast array of work that's taking place in the ward firsthand, and to also meet with the officers that are responsible for the ward to discuss local issues in the area. We work very closely with the homeless team itself. So you may recall in January, start of the year, it was a very cold start of the year. So we work very closely with the street sleepers and outreach team. And we did a lot of work overnight to try and identify those that were bedding down on our streets to get them into temporary accommodation or accommodation such as hostels overnight to get them away from any harm. We've also had some close working with the emergency planning team following incidents at various blocks across the borough, including the need to evacuate one following a fire, and we were first on site to assist with that work. Our priority to maintain safety for all women and girls is quite high. We've done a lot of work, and we take a zero tolerance approach to all forms of gender-based harassment and abuse, which occur throughout the borough, and we try and identify this and cut this down as much as we can. This work coincided with the Women's History Month in March, and we're present at all district centres and transport hubs to provide guidance. We are one of the first boroughs in the UK to have a street harassment public space protection order. So it's very important to make our visitors and residents aware of the work that's taking place, because, you know, it's been always my mantra that females that visit or live in the borough should feel as safe at 2 o'clock at night as they would at 7 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So we're constantly trying to promote the public space protection order and to help females feel safe while they're out and about in the borough. There was one site that was taken over by council property, taken over by squatters, and we managed to rehouse them and get possession of the property by working with the legal team. So we were very integral in that work that took place. Then the Hammersmith Bridge as well, we started doing the taskings on Hammersmith Bridge with crowd control and supporting the highways colleagues following several instances where cyclists and pedestrians had some arguments. So we were there to maintain the breach of peace. We work very closely with all tenants and resident associations, and we've been attending all the meetings that have been scheduled and been taking place across the borough. We also had the big boat race, the university boat race, which we marshalled, and that went without incident, despite the thousands of people in attendance. There was also a London-wide drug alert around this time because of the supply of potential synthetic opioids that were being reported across London. It wasn't something specific to Hammersmith and Fulham, but our staff were out looking to work and started working with Turning Point, who are an outreach team, to try and support anyone that might be on that might use such drugs, for instance. Our staff have also carry something that's called naloxone, and they're trained to administer this, and this suppresses the effects of opioids. So that's something that all staff have been trained to use. And the final thing that I just wanted to highlight is we've been working very hard and closely with the IT team to develop a new app which the law enforcement team officers use to record their work, but also to pick up service requests that come in. So for instance, previously, the service request module that we used to get recorded all the complaints that residents made to us about issues in their wards. This was only accessible by laptops in the office, which meant that staff were having to spend at least an hour every day going through their admin whilst they were in the office. But what this has allowed us to do is to ground assign them for longer periods of time, because they can log all their work whilst they're out on the ground, but also pick up work that's allocated to them while they're ground assigned as well, so they don't need to come back in the office. So we're more responsive, more reactive, and actually I think we're doing really well, because the staff, for instance, might get a complaint and within 10 minutes they might pop over to the person's house, knock on the door and say, oh, you've complained about something, we're here to help. which is, amazing, which I think is really, really shows us in a good light, and this is what we want to do. So the report is quite detailed. I don't want to go through all of it. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to read it, but if you have any questions, then I'm happy to take those now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a good summary. And well, yeah. Yes, I'll invite questions from.
Oh, thank you. I have a few questions. First of all, the app sounds really exciting. Does it have, presumably now you've got that'll be quite a useful tool for collecting together all the data, and will allow you to analyze that. Does it have also on it, as well as the outcome, presumably they're recorded on the app? Oh, I sound very loud. Do you also have a customer satisfaction rating on that?
That's very interesting you say that. It doesn't at the moment, but one of the things that we're working to do is to have a small survey at the end of all our contacts, so they can just show the level of satisfaction with the service provided. That will enable us to help with training and development of individual officers, but also as a service, what is the feedback from the residents, which is important for us to monitor and take note of. That's not something that's been deployed now, but that's something that's been considered for deployment in the near future.
Excellent. Because that's sort of my theme a bit of my questions is, I mean, it sounds really good what you're doing, and it's marvelous to look at these compliments. And I know that the residents are really grateful for, especially in the States, to have a presence there. And antisocial behaviour was a real issue. What would you say your feeling is about the key, the biggest area, the sort of key area?
Well, the team has 3 priorities, which is the safety, cleanliness, and the safety of women and girls. So we work to those 3 priorities. There is an offshoot of all 3 of those key priorities, but all staff are trained to handle all sorts of situations that they're put in and all sorts of complaints that they receive. The biggest issue for us right now is just to make sure that we're present in places where we need to be. All the issues that arise, they don't stay in the same place, they migrate as we disperse. So it's a case of just following those up and making sure the individuals that are causing those issues are referred to the right outreach teams and get the help that they need to stay away from that behavior that they're demonstrating out on the streets, which is causing alarm to our residents.
And as the manager, is it your, do you actually sort of target set and analyze the results of the outcomes, and further action needed, if you see what I mean?
So that's just not individually for me. We've got a wide team within the community safety unit. We've got the community safety officers. We've got CCTV officers. We've got the antisocial behavior team. We've got the gangs team. So together with all these colleagues, we do analyze the work that's taking place, and we try and find ways of either resolving the issue or moving it on. That's one of the 2 key things that we work towards. If an issue is arising in a location and it's persistent and it's there after 2 or 3 months, then that will become a case for concern. But we do work very closely with the police, and we make referrals to them once it gets to a point where we can no longer resolve ourselves. So working with those partners, whether internal or external, is very important to us, and we do that quite frequently.
Yeah, that sounds really good. It would be useful for us as a committee, even though there's only one of me today, to understand more how that process works, and what level things get referred on to the Met Police, and how you use that data you receive from the CTV cameras, and how that feeds into everyday action. I don't know if that's a question for you, Neil.
Yeah, thank you. So quite a big question. So I'll try and break it down. No, it's really helpful to have, really. So You're right, aren't you, in regard to how do we support the police and how do the police support us? And it has to be that kind of mutual approach, otherwise we won't maximise the benefits for the residents. So the way in which it works on the day-to-day practical level are you've got officers out on the ground, whether they're let officers or the police officers. And from the let perspective, all officers carry body radios and body cameras. That gives them direct access into the CCTV control room, which allows them to make sure that, one, from an officer safety perspective, they're covered, but two, if they're in an area where they require CCTV support, they radio over, and the control room will take the cameras that have got those areas, rotate those cameras to film what's going on. And the same is said of the police as well. Then what happens with that is that the CCTV officers are trained to understand and observe risk. So if they view that a situation requires immediate police response, they'll put that call through the police radio. They've got direct contact with the police, and the police will respond on blue lights.
So that's the net, not the let.
Yeah, met, not the let. So that's how we call the met up. If we have an incident where a resident contacts the let and says, I've got antisocial behaviour in my estate at the moment, then the way in which that works is, as Mo said, the management team have got access to the into the CCTV. No, sorry, the management team have got access into the emails. They then look at that and task the officers. So the officers are told to go and respond as quickly as practicable, and they'll go and engage and disperse. That information then gets fed back into the police. So every month, there's a tactical operational meeting that brings together, I would say, middle management that looks at all the information and intelligence from the teams and says where are shared areas of concern. There's also a strategic meeting which I go to with the superintendent that looks at the high levels of crime, looks at those shared opportunities and shared risks. So it's kind of multi-layered in regard to where we get the evidence and the intelligence and analyse it and target together, down to the operational side where we're tasking people left, right and centre. And for CCTV, the beauty of that is where we're tasking the police, our CCTV operators will deliver, for the last 2 years, close to 1,500 arrests directly from our officers identifying crimes, plus thousands on top of that where we've helped the police when they've already been responding to crimes. So it's, does that help? Does that answer the question regarding how it works? Or,
Yeah, no, I'm just looking puzzled because I'm just trying to imagine how that works in real life. Say, for instance, I'm trying to put it to a real scenario.
Yeah.
So someone if I had a drug dealer outside my house, and I tried to phone the police, but I kept held in a queue. So I phoned the let instead. Would the let then be able to get hold of the police?
Yeah, so the way in which that works, absolutely. So the person on the phone can't get through. The person on the phone will call us, or however they contact us, and the let on the app, yeah. And the let will then, if they've got officers in the area, let will respond. If they know there's cameras in the area, they'll call CCTV and say, "Can you help record it?" If they let get there and there's cameras already trained, fantastic. Equally, if the police have been called because the residents got through and the police have been dispatched, we hear that on the radio, of that police radio, and then we start to record that straight away. So that if the suspect starts to make away, we'll follow that suspect through the camera network and say, actually, that person's wearing this, this, and this, and they're now hiding in this area, so the police can go directly there to make that arrest. Does that help?
Yeah. And how many times does that, what can go wrong with that? Sorry.
Oh, turn your microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. I'm just thinking, how often does that work? How many times out of 10 does that actually work in practice?
So,
because there's a lot of variables there.
There are a lot of variables. I would say confidently, at least 9 times out of 10. So we've got the biggest CCTV network in the country, as we know. The police will speak very positively about their experiences working with H&F as the control room, and praise our officers for the quality of which they identify the suspects and the victims, the quality of which we seize, download and share footage, and the quality of our statements. And that's true as well of the let officers. So there may be times, of course, when you're dealing with 3, 4, 5 incidents at the same time, but then you can go back and do retrospective viewing. So that's the beauty of the system, right? That we can then go back and say, this is what happened. And our officers in CCTV will track back all the way through, so that potentially at what point that person started that interaction, or at what point into the borough. So it might be, you're welcome to come and see it in action.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
We
So
did.
yeah, no, I definitely would like to.
It might be easy to
let's
see
do
it,
yeah.
and then you can see everything that we've got. We can get that arranged.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to do, actually. I've just got a question from Councillor Brockleback-Fowler.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I have a number of questions. Firstly, regarding recruitment, and whether there is a full complement for each ward of LET officers. Because as far as I'm aware, we've been missing a person, an LET officer, in Fulham Town for the better part of the last year. So I would like you, please, to give me some details on how you are finding recruitment. Given that relatively few of the LET officers to whom I've spoken, most of them don't live in the borough. And I was wondering whether you are personally happy with the quality of some of the officers which you have had to recruit.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Just in regards to Fulham Town, every single ward in the borough has had a named officer in situ since the start of the service. There hasn't been a time where there hasn't been a dedicated officer. So I just need to review that, if that's okay, because that's not quite accurate as per...
We're meant to have 2, and only had 1 for some time. Plus, I mean, people sub in occasionally. But I don't know if this is the same in other wards. So my general question is about recruitment and how you are finding that, and the quality of the people who are putting themselves forward. Okay,
so where there is departures from our service, we always replace. So that does mean moving staff from one ward to another to cover a patch. So for instance, if in Hurlingham we had 2 officers, but the officers from Fulham Town left, then we'd have to move someone over to provide cover in that interim. So to ensure that the residents of that ward have a named officer. So that's always been the case. Just in regards to the quality of the recruits itself, the criteria that we follow is to ensure that the people that we're bringing on board and onboarding have experience and knowledge. That's a prerequisite for us. We're not picking up people that have zero knowledge, legislative knowledge or experience in this field, which is why when we recruit, we're always looking for those people that have worked in similar line of work in other boroughs. So for instance, when I did some interviews just the other day, we've managed to recruit some really good quality officers that work in Lambeth Council who are looking to join Hammersmith and Fulham because they know the kind of work that the team does. So that's the criteria. The criteria always is experience and knowledge in this field. And we're looking to recruit people with that as a minimum. And we've actually increased our criteria. So we mark out of 35. Previously, we took people on that graded 21 and above, but now we've increased that to 24 just to increase that ceiling, just to make sure that the quality of staff we're bringing on board are adequate for the service and the type of work that we ask them to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, with your indulgence, one more point. Okay. The LET Are you the person who has stopped the LET, or is it the administration policy to not allow the LET to attend the ward panel meetings held quarterly by the police in each ward?
Thank you for that question. Over to Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, the LET don't attend the Met ward panel meetings because they are solely for Met and residents. To me, it's not appropriate for the LET to be going to those meetings to be scrutinised. There is a proper forum for that to take place, and that's in this meeting. So the LET don't attend those meetings because they are focused on the police and residents and supporting the issues that residents have around crime in the borough. Separate from that, the LET and community safety meet very frequently with the police and have very good relationships talking about the issues and discussing those together.
This is a change, because when they were first brought in, they attended the ward panels, because I go to mine in my ward, and they used to be there along with the housing officers. They have also been told that they cannot attend the police meetings. It was very useful for the community who come to those meetings on a regular basis, because they're held obviously locally within each ward, to have the full range. If the LET are meant to be helping the police as well, inevitably there is some crossover in what services they offer and the police offer. And I think that they should be allowed to attend. They do want to attend. Those that I've spoken to, the LET officers have asked, have said they don't know why they're not allowed to attend, because it's a break in the circle of the safety that we're all trying to achieve for the residents of Hammersmith and Fulham.
May I respond?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't believe it is a break in the circle. As I've already said, the LET team work very closely with the police. Community safety as a whole work very closely with the police. We have regular weekly meetings with the police. We'll also have regular meetings with residents. Residents can also come here if they wish to find out more. So there's a huge amount of work being carried out by the LET team and community safety to make our borough safe for residents. The police, the guidance on ward panels is very clear. It's about holding the police to account and addressing issues of crime with the police at those panels. So I don't agree with your sentiments, and we work very closely with the police and with residents. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
fine. I think we'll agree to differ on that then.
Anyone else? Any more questions, Lucy? Are you?
I did have one more. It was
Sure.
more a suggestion, actually.
Yeah.
Because looking at the data in your lovely charts, which I had to print out because I'm not very, I just can't see charts on a computer screen. They don't mean anything to me. But it occurred to me that it would be good to have a total of the call outs at the end rather than a monthly. And then it would be more helpful. Possibly, I don't want to give you extra work, but I thought that if underneath each one there was a summary, rather than having it separately in the report, and if you had more of the analysis of the data there, saying why there was a decline in the calls or why there was an increase in the amount of call outs, and what the things that went well and what the things needed to be worked on, what the targets were.
Yes, we'll make that amendment for the next report. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, actually, because that's one of my... Also, these charts from April, I see that it's a whole year, so from April 24 to March 25. But my question, I suppose, is if you could summarize trends that have happened, because now we're in June. Do you have any data that brings it forward to June that you can give us a little summary of now? Has there been any changes in like the service requests and yeah, summarise now? That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, what we have seen since the app was deployed since April is there has been an increase in the number of patrols that have been logged. So part of the issue that we were having, and I should just clarify because I think Councillor Richardson alluded to the app. The app is solely for the law enforcement officers to use for their work, and it's not for the public to access to log things or report things. So I should just clarify that. What we found with the previous method of recording inspections was that it was prone to outages when there was no mobile phone reception. So these logs are done on a mobile phone. Now we have the app, and what it does is when an inspection is logged, it's not reliant on reception, mobile reception. So we were losing some inspections as a consequence. But now, because of this app, what it does, it stores that data in a cache, which is a back function memory. And then when it gets the reception, it uploads that data onto the network and allows us to capture all inspections. So we're not losing any inspections. So what we've seen recently for the April, May, and June this year is an increase in the number of patrols that have been logged and taking place as well. Add to that the fact that staff are out ground assigned a lot more because of the new way of working. We're capturing a lot more work and going through a lot more service requests as well. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just on the charts as we're looking at them now, and forgive me, just explain what's an FPN?
Sorry,
what's an FPN?
Sorry, an FPN is a fixed penalty notice. I should stay away from acronyms. Yes.
I think just to echo what Councillor Richards is saying, graphically and quantifiably, it needs to just be a little bit more tight, and maybe we can see that produced for the next session, I think. But it's great that we're gathering data, and just also, I want to just follow up on the app again that you just mentioned. So the public don't have access to it. So I think it could be really good if we could produce something where it's linked to which I don't know, for the public to be able to contact an app. Would that be something that could be explored?
So we're a 24-hour service.
Yeah.
And our best and preferable way of contacting the service is by email or by phone in the daytime. That email is monitored 24 hours a day by staff, either when they're ground assigned or in the office. There's always someone watching to see what work is coming in. The council already has a report app already that it has, so that work that is reported by the residents can come through and filter to the right team. So we've got that already. I would be a bit hesitant to introduce a second app because that might cause confusion.
Okay, I didn't appreciate that. I guess that goes on to my further point then, is how we filtering this information over to the public so they know how to contact you. I think that's quite especially with that app. I hadn't understood we had that. So the residents app.
So residents can contact us in a number of ways. We are at all the libraries first Monday of every month. So in the north, the first Monday of the month, we're in the north. Second Monday of the month in the central, I think is Hammersmith Library, and Fulham Library on the third Monday of each month. We attend all tenancy resident association meetings. And actually all our literature that we distribute while we're out and about clearly has our details on how to contact us and when.
Just to follow up on that still, it's just how can we get that message out though to everybody that there, it's fine, a couple of officers on the street, which is great, handing out leaflets. Not everyone logs onto the internet and to check out these things. Is there other ways that we can think about communicating that in a wider way. Thanks.
Absolutely. I think you're spot on. And I think that is definitely something we need to look at and take away. What more we can do to get that comms out there, 100%.
Yeah, thanks. I think we should all kind of get our heads together on that for now. Especially because how important you've a report that you put together, how much we actually do to fight crime. I mean, we haven't even touched on the drugs and the numbers that you've looked at and seized, and how closely and integral we are to working with the police. So that message has to be, really widely publicised to the public, I think. So anyway, I can see that Councillor Brockbank-Fowler's got her hand up. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And I wanted to put a question about the increasing number of FPNs that are being issued. I'm sure I'm not the only councillor who is receiving more and more complaints about residents who feel that they have made mistakes and subsequently been fined, mostly for putting rubbish out slightly too early or whatever. Now, I know that you have repaid a number of these fines. Can you actually give me a percentage and a total of what fines have been cancelled over the last year?
I don't have that data. I'll have to revert back at a later time. I don't have that data to hand at the moment, unfortunately. But I should just touch on the type of FPNs that are issued. So environmental offences are a criminal offence. Fly tipping, large scale, affects people. It affects, it costs money to clear up, money that could be otherwise spent on maintaining parks and other such things. So actually the team does issue fines. They do work to clear up the borough, and that's part of our priority. We've done a seizure of a vehicle because this person decided to drive around and pick up waste and dump it around the corner. So that leaves the council with the cost of cleaning up. So, the team will continue to issue fines where it's appropriate. A very small percentage of people who present their waste outside of the advised hours have been issued fines. But again, I don't have that data to hand to share with you now, but I will supply that. Thank you.
Well, I think that that's the kind of data that we need presented to us, because this is what we're specifically asked about by residents. So I'd be grateful if you'd send me an email with the details, please.
I think Councillor Harvey, you wanted to say?
No, it's okay.
Right. So Mark Rosebeck.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Rosebeck, Director of Public Realm. I think it's just important to add that particularly when it comes to residents and the fly tipping, is that the let officer's first action is not to issue a fixed penalty notice. Their first action is to try and contact the resident and to try and educate them and help them to understand how they should be presenting their waste, which may be then presenting a problem to other people. So, for example, there are several fixed penalty notices I can think of where we've spent a couple of weeks trying to contact a resident who presented their waste on the pavement far too early and an extensive amount of waste. It was only after trying to contact them for 2 weeks that we resorted to issuing a fixed penalty notice, because we couldn't get in contact with them while they weren't responding. So I think the notion that we are waiting to pounce on residents is not the right one. We are trying to work with residents to educate them. We certainly don't want to issue a fixed penalty notice. We'd rather people understood the rules and complied with the rules, but we've got to try and balance that with the inconvenience, cost and disruption that the people who don't comply with those rules cause others as well. So we're constantly striving to try and get that balance right, and we're always listening to feedback. And so some of those residents who come to us and explain why they had a problem, in some cases we do cancel that if we think that's a valid, reason. So we are trying to work and get that balance right all the time. It's never easy within this sphere to please all the people all the time.
Thank you very much for that. Yes.
Sorry, look, I am well aware that there is a target because it's published in Budget Council for the amount to be raised from FPNs. So I think you have to be slightly careful how you put that. But anyway, we'll leave the topic there for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to come in? Yes. Yeah, sure.
I just want to ask another question about the data on the housing patrols on number 3. It just seems that there's a lot more red than there is black. So it means that last year you did a lot more housing patrols than this year. And that seems curious because that's something that residents always say to me that they really value. So perhaps you could just explain how that rationale works.
Yeah, so you'll see there's been a slight decline this year compared to last year, and that's basically because we had some persistent issues at certain sites in housing lands across the borough, north, south and central, which required a lot of intensive work by the law enforcement officers. There were some issues where people were gaining access into buildings and using the communal areas either to sleep overnight or to cause nuisance to the residents, or just gaining access because they wanted to get out of the weather. This was a persistent issue which was taking place, which required a whole service intervention. So for instance, if it was happening in the south of the borough and we didn't have the south team in because they finished their shift, we moved north assets over to help monitor that site and to disperse those people from gaining access.
Was this last year then? Sorry.
So the last year's data shows that we did a lot more patrols in housing land than we did this year, but that's because that we had some sticky situations which were persistent and we couldn't get rid of. But what we did do, though, is work very closely with the housing repairs team to target strengthen those areas so that we had better locks, better doors, repairs done much quicker. And what that meant is working closely with them is those kind of issues haven't re-arisen this year. So we didn't need to go back to those areas because those issues didn't come up again.
Excellent. Well, I think, can I suggest that, because it looks like it's a failure because the times have gone down. So you need to write that up underneath the data as a success.
Yeah, thank you. I'd agree that just the graphics and the way it's illustrated.
No, that's right. across the service. Yeah. I mean, where you see parks as well, there's a similar trend there as well. We had some issues, but what's happened is as the letters evolved over the 4 years, people are more visible about the powers that we have, and we're using them more confidently now. The officers are more confident with their powers that they have to disperse and issue fines if they have to for any persistent behaviour, or notices, or work with the police. So yeah, I mean, a summary on my part would have helped any questions such as that, Councillor Richardson. But yeah, it's not a failure, it's actually a success, but I just need to demonstrate that better.
Can I ask the surgeries on mostly at the libraries, monthly surgeries, do we have data on well attended they are? That would be useful to... and because then it will help with, again, our comms, just to get the word out. Yeah.
We do it consistently, but we don't have data on how many attendees there are. No, we don't capture that. It's a handful. It's not a broad. I mean, we're asked to be in places where residents are to make that contact and have that visibility. It's something we've always done since the start of the service. But no, we don't capture data on how many people we've spoken to. That's not quite how we capture the data. I think.
I guess why I'm asking the question is that maybe we should be promoting it more. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Chair, just to add, I think you've hit a very valid subject about communication, and I think as the cabinet member said, we'll take that away and look at that and work with our comms team and look at what we can do. What I think is interesting with the work that the Let do every day, going out there, they're meeting lots of the public every single day. So actually, the amount of people they meet on their beats far exceeds the people that come to the libraries, for example. So there is lots of opportunities with those contacts to think about how do we provide information so that they know how to contact us when they need us. And I think those are the things we need to explore, all the different contact points and the different forms of communication we can provide people to get that message out there. So we'll take that away as an action.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think it's always just good to keep developing this kind of thing anyway. And because we've got this whole year of data here, so we need to sort of build on that, don't we? Okay. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say on this? Yes.
Thank you. Just to add on the comms piece again. So I just want to kind of make members aware. So when we have the council summer magazine and the winter magazine, there's always, to be fair, a double page spread on community safety in the round. And within that, there's always a feature on the Let. So that gets distributed to every single household in the borough. And also, when we've been running campaigns previously, whether around the sexual harassment PSPO, or indeed going back to when we launched the Let 4 years ago, we used the telephone kiosks that have advertising screens. And on there as well contains how to contact the Let and the QR code that takes you to the website. So there's more that we can do, and we'll work on this in the background to do more around it. But just to let you know, Councillor, that we do as much promotion as we can. Let's do some more, because there have been very valid point suggestions, but I want to make sure that you're aware that we do get those bits out there as well.
That's great, thanks. I mean, we do have a massive amount of redundant telephone boxes, not redundant, but BT boxes. So that is a very good use of them. Do we advertise in all of them, or how's that at the moment?
So the ones that are the electronic ones, so the BT InLink machines that have digital advertising screens on the side, the local authority and the Let have been able to use those over the last few years. So we tend to do them for focus campaigns for specific periods of time, either to promote things like the women's safety walks that we've done each Christmas for the last few years, or promote the sexual harassment PSPO, etc. So it's not an everyday occurrence. We use them for our campaigns to maximise awareness and to make sure that residents see it, as opposed to become blind if they see it day in, day out all year round.
Thank you. And one more question, and I think this we're probably coming to an end on this, is just how effective you are in sort of identifying drug dens and helping the police with the removal of drugs. Can you just talk a little bit more about how you work with the police and how on the data that you provide them, and the methods that you use? Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So drugs is a real issue, challenge, not just in H&F, not just in London, but nationally. And with drugs comes a range of issues from modern slavery and exploitation, coercion, through to crime. And there's a lot of challenges within that around vulnerable people, complex needs, but fundamentally the impact it has on residents in regard to them seeing what happens and feeling frustrated by that. So the way in which we work is around a few things, really. So one is around actually the residents' report. So we get residents contact us and say that they've seen people dealing on the streets. They might say that they've called the police and there've been no response, and that might be for a myriad of reasons. They might call and say that they've spoken to the police several times and not getting a response. Can you, the council, help? The Let officers will know their patches, and that's the beauty of the ward officers. They know their areas, they know the people. They might identify people that are vulnerable, that might be drug using, and they might see a deterioration or change in their approach. and also through the antisocial behaviour unit and or through housing or through our social landlords, we might get reports of increased coming and goings from a property, which suggests cuckooing. Cuckooing is where a vulnerable person has their property taken over. They're befriended. They might be offered things for free in return for allowing that person or persons to use their property or live in their property. And then it becomes, as you said, Councillor, a sort of a drugs den, for want of a better phrase. So we, across the community safety unit, get a range of information intelligence in. We'll then work again with the police, work with colleagues in housing providers, private sector rented team, etc., and build that case and look then to secure a premise closure. A premise closure is when we go to court, we present the magistrate with the evidence. Within that evidence contains crime reports, statements, but also, and possibly more impactfully, is the statements from residents to say the detrimental impact it has on them or their family's lifestyle. The magistrate then has the power to grant that closure, which allows us to either close the property completely, i.e. no one's allowed in there at all, or what they call a partial closure, which would allow the resident to live there, but no one else. And that closure power can be for up to 6 months. Generally, it's for 3 months, then you have to review and go back to the court to extend it. What we always say to residents is that it's really important for them to report where they're seeing those concerns, and it can be quite nervous and for residents to do that. So again, we say to people, look, there are options. You can call the council, you call the police, you can call Crime Stoppers, and then that information comes through and we look at that. So drugs is illegal. The dealing, the use, the possession of it is illegal, and the police need to be taking more action around that and how we're addressing drugs and drugs markets. And we, through the work of the Youth Justice Service, the Gangs, Violence Exploitation Unit, etc., will engage and support young people that might be being exploited into it, but also working with public health colleagues around getting more and more people into treatment and care, because those that are using drugs will need some sort of treatment and care to stop. I hope that kind of helps.
Yeah, thank you. It was just the direct question more was how you actually help the police clear up the drug scene in supporting them with gathering evidence.
Yeah, so it's that bit around the statement. So the officers will go down and say, I saw this, we'll give CCTV evidence, and we'll help them build that case. And equally, that sharing of information, we might not know who the person is, but the police might, but equally they might not know who he is, but we might. So it's that conversational piece around what's going on, where is it, and then deciding what is the most suitable action to take.
So a sort of essential collaboration now, just because, you know, the whole rise of what gave rise and birth to the LET team was because of the depletion of the police resources in the borough. So that's great what you're doing. I suppose it's, again, it's getting that message out to people. And have you seen like an increase in combating the drug scene, or is it at the moment? Have you got data on that?
So anecdotally, I can confirm the figures outside, that's okay. We've closed, between the police and the council, you know, this calendar year, there will be an average at least 1 to 2 closures being executed each week, which is an increase, and that's because we're taking that action robustly and seriously together.
How has that changed from, say, this time last year, or like?
So the speed at which we're closing property is increasing because we recognise that it's the exploitation, that's the challenge around these properties. And so what we try and do is give the police the tools to take action against those that perpetrate the crimes. Year-on-year figures, I'd have to go away and come back to you because I don't have that to hand, but I can take that as an action.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks very much. Yeah, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, I would like to add just that about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we actually had some residents who appeared to be fighting in a park in the borough, and some of the LET officers happened to be going past and saw this take place, intervened, and as a consequence of that, managed to seize a huge quantity of cannabis. So without the dedication to the job that they're doing, being involved and going out there and working really hard to make sure our streets are safe, that wouldn't have happened. So, and the police were not there. It was the Let there fighting crime, making our borough safer for everyone. And the drugs was huge back, and perhaps we can bring some of those pictures back to the next PAC meeting, so the committee can see just how much drugs was seized by the Let officers. So they're doing a huge amount of work to tackle drugs in the borough. It is a police matter though, drugs, but our Let's team are doing everything we can to try and make our borough safer.
Thank you. Okay, well, anyone else have anything more to add?
Can I just add two more things, actually?
Sure.
Firstly, just going back to the point about quality, Neil could probably confirm the qualification, but all of our Let officers get professional training in how to use their powers, and they're all accredited with, is it CSAS, which stands for?
Community Safety Accreditation Scheme.
Community Safety Accreditation. So we've got good quality Let officers, and we're very proud of the work they do. And just really to say that there's been a huge amount of work carried out by the Let officers, and the work is really valued by residents, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we've probably come to a close on this now. Do all the do the officers report? Members. No, sorry. Do we agree to recommend the report? Agreed. Thank you very much. Apologies. Sort of sum up, thank you very much for this. It's been very interesting, and I know I've stumbled a little on my first chairing of this, but thank you for bearing with me. And I just want to sum up that we're all agreeing that for next time round, we would like to have sort of the communications improved, and we're going to work on that together. Because we can always improve, and it's just also to just show the public how good we are and how we are assisting with the police and our work in the borough to keep everyone safe. And then we want to come back with some figures on reverting fines for people, and yes, and just on sort of the graphics of the data and how we how that is portrayed for next time round. That'd be great. Thank you very much, everybody. And yeah, we'll need to agree the date of the next meeting. We've got 18th of November, but so we'll agree that. Okay. Thank you very much.